Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. It has been an interesting day in the market. So we're going to do a market recap. But first, y'all, let me go ahead and give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yes, the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. With that being said, let's get started. We are looking at NVIDIA. And the video was interesting today, y'all. We saw pre-market that it hit this high of 153.74, but look what happened here. It seems as if, as soon as the bell rung, we had again, this is the 30-minute chart, we had a decline. And if you were able to get in it at the right time, that could have been a very nice trade, because the high was of this candle is 153.13. And then the low, just the low of this candle here is 140.44. So if you got in from here down to here, that would have been a very nice, profitable trade. So I'm going to go to the 5-minute chart, and I know my charts sometimes look a little congested, but again, I like to chart and figure out where the trouble places are. And charting is just coming up with the strategy that works best for you. If it's overwhelming, then you can always tone it down, zoom in, zoom out. There's color coding. There's so many different things that you can do to help you. So again, this is NVIDIA on the 5-minute chart, and we knew pre-market that this was the zone that it was trading in. As soon as it broke out of this, that would have been a way for me to enter 5 and 50 crossing with the 5 EMA and the 50 EMA. In my opinion, that's it's what I look for to enter my trade. So NVIDIA gave me a signal here that I could have entered the trade. And if you look at my MACD right here, I like to see those lines a little bit separate, so I have confirmation. One, we're breaking out of a gathering spot. My 5 and 50 has crossed. That's number 2. And my MACD is giving me a signal that it's separating and it's to the downside, right? So as soon as this candle, it's coming down, we are now under my 5 EMA. So I have another confirmation that if I am in this trade, I need to be trading it to the downside based on under the 5 EMA, MACD cross, 5 and 50 cross, broke out of a gathering spot. I have a lot of confirmations that's, give me a little bit more, it's okay to trade to the downside. So again, if you traded NVIDIA on this trade here, that was a very, very nice trade today. Now, the interesting thing is the sideways movement after that, because that's exactly what we did. So if you did not get in, off of that early morning, it just moved sideways. So you would have been up down type thing. Could you have traded this if you are a quick scalper? I would say possibly. However, the better trade, and that's what we look for, the better trade or the most profitable trade, would have been the early morning trade, and that's right when the bell rung to get in and down. So I'm going to go to a 2-minute just really, really quick. And again, it kind of shows exactly what the 5-minute was showing us with NVIDIA, that, the best time to have traded this was right here when we were coming. And even if we didn't look at the 5 and 50 cross, and we made 3 lower lows here, we could have entered the trade somewhere around this area, around the 150.72 area. Again, the MACD gave us a little separation here, so that would have been a nice trade to the downside. We stayed under the 5 EMA based on, this 2-minute chart down to this, let's say, the 140 area. So yeah, if you'd have got in at the 150 to the 140 for NVIDIA, congratulations, because that would have been a very, very nice trade. So I'm going to go to Tesla, because I believe I'm going to go back to the 30-minute. Yeah, I just like starting on looking at the 30-minute chart. It just gives me, I guess I'm so used to seeing it from that perspective. It's a lot easier for me. But again, trading is what works best for you. This is Tesla on the 30-minute chart. So looking at it on this 30-minute chart, this is our, let's see, 930 candle here. We went up, got rejected, and came down. So if we would have bought off of this rejection and came down with Tesla, that would have been a nice trade. The high of this candle was 414.33. We could have at least traded it, somewhere around the low of this candle was 391.20. So I'm going to go, and then from there, based on this 30-minute chart, we just moved sideways basically. So again, here's another case that we could have gotten in right when the bell rung and traded it to, this till it found some support, and then just, well, really got out. Or I would have definitely got out if I would have bought in at the top here, but we could have scalped this. So I'm going to see if I can zoom in just a little bit so we can look at this a little bit clearer. So Tesla broke out of a gathering spot. We would have noticed that pre-market. That's how I just mark those levels every morning. Pre-market, the gathering spot price is trading in this zone, and as it broke past that or under that, above that or beneath that, I would have entered based on what I was seeing at the time. So Tesla gave us a signal here on this 5-minute chart that we have a double top here. I'm just looking at the body of the candles here. We made a high of 414.33. It gave us a double top here, and it gave us a signal. That's a signal that we're coming back to the downside, and as you can see, that's exactly what we did. So if I would have waited to, if I didn't buy it, this location here, you know, I have a 5 and 50 crossing here would have been a signals for me, okay, to enter, or, you know, the MACD cross here. So there's another confirmation. So I have 3 things that, you know, it's okay to enter this trade to the downside. And I like to look for more than one confirmation when it's time to enter the trade. That way, you know, I have a little bit better chance at, you know, being profitable in the trade. Let me say it that way. So again, Tesla gave us a double top here. We came down. I didn't like this little area here. However, we are still making lows. I mean, we're still, declining. Yeah, let's say it that way. We are declining here. So if we would have just waited until we got back to this place here, if we would have entered Tesla around 405.74, we could have stayed in this trade. I wouldn't like this area here. However, we didn't get back up to this level here. We didn't break past the 5. We came back down. So that would have been okay. The 5 EMA, that is. So, you know, when we broke under this level of 397.16 that I have marked, we have broken out of that back to this area here. I would have probably gotten out around this 392.73 area, in my opinion. That's just the way that I trade. I'm grateful for whatever I get. Sometimes if we stay too long, we lose profit. We lose. So be grateful and not greedy. I say that, right? So again, Tesla's giving us a signal here. It looks like almost a double bottom, almost. So I would have definitely not have, you know, I would have watched it in this area here. And then this candle here, I would have said, okay, Tesla looks like it's found some support, and it looks like it's consolidating, getting ready to make the next move. That's how I see it. So once we bounced here, I clearly would have been out to the downside because my MACD has crossed. That's a signal that I look for to enter the trade. So if I am on the downside, it's telling me that it's getting ready to reverse direction, and that's exactly what we did here. Even though it was a brief reversal, we still moved from the down. Candles are under the 5 EMA to above the 5 EMA. So I definitely need to be careful with that. I don't want to be on the opposite end of that. So here we consolidated again, only to come back down to this area here, this 392.73. It's an area that I had marked, and Tesla just kind of like stayed really close to that, which is interesting. So if you traded Tesla today, you know, in my opinion, the better trade would have been at the open when the market first opened and it came down. And yeah, that was a decent trade if you got in at the right time and out at the right time. I'm not saying that you can't make money on these smaller moves here, because if you get in at the right time again and out at the right time, you very well can. But again, we're trying to make profitable trades and getting in at the right time. Apple is what's interesting today. I'm going to go to the 30-minute chart only because that's where I like to start. This is Apple on the 30-minute chart. It seems like here on the start we had a double top here on the 30-minute only to sell off. So if we would have entered to Apple 245.17 down to the 241.35 would have been a nice trade. What's interesting is how it bounced off of this ATR trail and stop. In my opinion, that is a strong support area. Now, looking at Apple on this 5-minute chart, again, this is our gathering spot here. We moved up to the 245.55, came back to the gathering spot. That's the consolidation area, however you choose to say it, right? So it looks as if our MACD gave us a signal that, you know, there's a crossing here. We are declining. So if we would have entered the trade, we are making lower lows. That's a second confirmation for me. And the 5 and 50 is crossing here. The blue line and the white line is crossing here. That's another confirmation. So I'm making lower lows. My MACD has crossed, and I'm breaking out of a gathering spot. So that's a good place to enter Apple, right? So Apple is declining. We would have entered all the way down to this area here. That 241.35 looks like that's a hammer in my opinion. So I would have definitely been out of the trade here. And if you can see, the MACD has crossed back again, and my candles are above the 5 EMA. So I definitely don't want to be to the downside when my candles are, you know, moving back to the upside. So I would have been out of the trade here. And if you're a scalper, you could have definitely entered. If you're not in the trade, could have entered here off of this double bottom on this 5-minute chart once it got above the 5 EMA. And, you know, the confirmation would have been the MACD that crossed here. So that would have been a nice scalp. I would say, you know, somewhere around the 242.32 area back up to this rejection here. High of this candle, 230. 243.41. So that would have been 240. Yeah, that would have been a nice little scalp if you're in and out with Apple. So again, I like to try to find good profitable trades, and again, if you didn't make this, that would have been a little scalp move here. Or I don't like to trade these little whipsaw up down type things here. I do not. But again, if you are a quick scalper and it works best for you, you do what works best for you. So the SPY is what was interesting today in my opinion, and I know my SPY charts are very congested, and that's something that I trade often, or I like to look at charting wise. So this is the SPY on the 30-minute chart, and as we can see, and let me go see if I can move back over. As you can see, pre-market we traded in this like gathering spot here, and I noticed that we were moving up just a little bit, and we were up a lot in my opinion pre-market, but for some reason the SPY and the VIX looked a little bit different. So I knew we were getting ready to have some type of move. I just didn't know what type of move, right? So again, on this 30-minute chart, SPY, this is our, make sure 930 candle here. We got rejected at this area. I have the level of, let's say, 597.72. The high of this candle was 597.75. So it got rejected in this area here, only to come back down. Once we came down, we got under this level that I have marked at 595.16. That's a level that SPY's been having trouble in or staying at, or for me to have it, highlighted, that's something that I needed to watch. Well, we broke under that, and when we did, there was the 5 and 50 cross, which is a signal again for me. So I knew that to the downside is where I needed to be if I was trading the SPY. And as you can see, that would have been a nice trade from the high of this 597.75 all the way down to that's even to the low of this candle, 590.51. So I'm going to go to a smaller time frame so I can see it from a different view. Again, this is the 5-minute chart for the SPY. So this is our gathering spot, or it would have been our gathering spot here. Let's see if I can make it a little bit. Yes, so this would have been our gathering spot here. 5 and 50 cross here. MACD gave us a signal here. So we definitely could have entered the trade before this, right at this candle here, to the downside for the SPY. So if we would have entered, let's say, at this ORB high, the low here, this red dotted line, I'm looking at it. Yes, so if we would have entered it at 595 or 596.07 area, if we would have entered here and just rode the wave all the way down, I would have probably gotten out at this level here on this, the low of this candle was 592.03. So that would have been a nice down. Now once it moved back to the upside, I could have very well stayed in the trade, and today I believe the MACD kept me in this trade, or kept me in a trade, when I noticed that even the candles were a little bit different. My MACD has not crossed, or hadn't crossed yet, so I stayed in the trade because I was looking at the MACD. It kind of helped me stay just a little bit longer. So it got rejected here. We knew that we could possibly get rejected here, and as we did, SPY came back down again under the 5 EMA, back down to this level. As you can see, I'm going to see if I can make that a little bit bigger, because I wanted to show that. That's why it's so important that we mark those places, the gathering spots, because as we see here, SPY came down to this 590.89 area. We found support here, and this hammer here possibly tells us that we could possibly move back to the upside, and that's exactly what we did. Look what the MACD is doing here. It kind of crossed, but I don't like to see those lines so close together, so I would not have been in this portion of the trade. If I would have traded anything, I could have scalped it here off of this hammer once it got past this level here. So from around 591.99, I probably would have been out, somewhere around this area, 593.52, if I was in the scalping place of it. Now, to the sideways movement here, I do not like to trade those based on, I'm looking at my MACD. I'm not making, higher highs and higher lows. I'm just moving sideways. I don't like that. Again, so it's not under the 5 or over the, it's just right there at the 5 EMA. Now here it gives me, it's coming down. We move up, came back down. This was an interesting place right here for a scalp. One, I think that looks like a hammer hammer, right? We are under the 5 EMA. We moved to switch to the higher, above the 5 EMA, and my MACD is giving me a signal for entry. So I have two confirmations. Well, actually three. I'm making higher highs here, three higher highs. I could have entered the trade somewhere around here for a scalp, around the 591.03, and at least scalp it to this area here of 592.39. So that would have been a nice, depending on how many shares you have or how many contracts you have, that could have been a profitable trade at that place. But again, today has been a very interesting day in the market, just looking at how things have, everything is basically looking the same. So with the SPY, back to the downside right here around, let's say 245, we had a signal that we could have entered back to the downside. We have three lower lows. MACD has separated here, and we are under the 5 EMA. So this could have been a scalp back to the downside. This hammer here would have been something that I would have been interested, paying very, very close attention to around 335. So if you traded the SPY today, I say congratulations, because it was a nice trade from the 597.75 all the way down to the 586. 597.75 down to 586.78, in and out. Or if you would have just stayed in, it was still a very profitable trade. Let me say it that way. Or could have been a very profitable trade. Let's say that, right? So again, y'all, when I look at the market, this is some of the things that I see. There's so many different ways to trade the market, and what's important is trying to find the strategy or the best way that works best for you. So I hope these videos are very, very helpful. I hope that everyone had a very productive day today, a very profitable day today. If you could, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, y'all, because we learn and we grow together. So until next time, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others.